story. Just October the 1st, another black man, Givan, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was found hanging from a tree in the woods out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now you're going to see a video of his ex-girlfriend telling about the situation. Evidently, he was from Kansas City, from what I understand, and had just recently went out there for work. So in wake of the Trey Reed situation out in Delta State, another situation, Demetrius Moore out in Arkansas, and another situation which I've yet to address out in Alabama. We have, this will make a total of 4, maybe more, young black men who have been found hanging from trees than the last month. But y'all watch this video and I'll be back with a little more commentary about this particular situation.
So my mom woke me up this morning to show me a news article that my brother had sent to her. My ex, Givan Givan, was found hanging in a tree in the woods in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Not even a month after covering the Trey Reed story, another black man has been found hanging from a tree. And this time I actually knew him. This is actually so insane to me. And do you know what they're saying? They are ruling this. They found another black person hanging in the woods, hanging from a tree. And they're saying he did it to him. Like, I honestly don't even know how to feel right now. And I don't know what was going on in his life at the time. But if one thing's for certain, 2 things are for sure. He did not self. And he was. And as morbid as it sounds, we actually used to talk about this when we were together. And if you actually knew him at any point, at any time in his life, you would know him, just like every other black person in America, would never choose to be from a tree. And do I believe that the police did their job at any point during this investigation? Absolutely not. Just like they never did. So just like Trey Reed in Mississippi, they are trying to sweep this under the rug, but I'm not going to let them. And I don't know how censored or how many TikTok words I will use to replace the actual language. So I don't know if this is actually going to get suppressed or if it will get out. And if you feel the urge to get in my comments with your condescending, patronizing bull, I urge you to keep scrolling and have the day that you can keep your fake selfies and your lack of empathy and move around. Like, do y'all honestly believe in your heart of hearts that it is common practice for black Americans to themselves in trees when it is y'all history of hanging and lynching that this country is so desperate to erase? So let me be as clear as I can. If you are silent, you are complicit. If you are patronizing, you are complicit. If you see the racial climate in dumps America and still fix your lips to give fake condolences for a cover-up, you are complicit. And you're one of the worst type of human beings. And I haven't seen this story on my For You page or on TikTok at all. So if you could please spread the word about this, that would be greatly appreciated. So like, share, repost, make your own video if you want. Because regardless of my past with him, I'm going to say his name and I'm going to make sure you guys say it. Givan Givan did not unalive himself. This country has claimed another black life because your dictator has made this climate in which these racist pieces of shit can feel superior, justified, and safe in committing these crimes. Because who cares about black bodies, right? Wait the fuck up. Because y'all have always done this, and it has always been us. People who are trying to get this story out by whatever means. Thank you. Because like I said, the TikTok is probably going to suppress this video. But we don't want stories like this. And to all my fellow black people, people of color, and allies alike, I love you. Be safe. Be ready. And we'll see you.
All right, so there is.
Hey, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Yasharala, peace to the nation of Israel. Whom out of modern-day so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and speckled Israelites being Israelite foreigners, scattered across the 4 corners of the earth, including within America, Babylon the Great, the main place for our captivity. And we are the Most High, Yahweh chosen people, of the nation of Israel. So without further ado, as always, in Allah Shema Kadash, being the Holy Tongue, as in the Paleo Hebrew, meaning the ancient Hebrew, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is God of the living, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barach, Barash, meaning double honors to the apostles, Salakia, meaning all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, whom was our strength and our Redeemer and our light and our salvation. In the same tongue, I'm Adamah Shana Kabwadium, Lahasa Kwanium, Shala, Gadarabba Kab, many double honors to the apostles and elder bishops, Great Millstone, for teaching and ruling well. And Shalom, honors and salutations to Bayashid Awadah, meaning the house of David, of the 1/3 elect remnant of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the 1/3 elect men and women of the children of Israel, scattered across the four corners of the earth. All right. It's your fellow servant, Malak Rayab. She's back at it again with another lesson through the spirit of prophecy, being a testimony of our Lord and Savior, Hamashiach Yahushai, who the master of the world ignorantly refers to Jesus Christ. And it's another lynching that recently took place down there in Albuquerque, New Mexico, not too far away from where we are here, within the borderland, within the borderlands here in El Paso. It's about a 5-hour drive, give or take. And initially, what I was thinking about was, spiritually, the fact that the El Paso brothers down here, including myself, typically preaches down there. All right. Every now and again we go down there and, as part of the borderlands, we bring out the word. And it reminded me of, Yahushua saying, when a town doesn't accept you, shake off the dust, from underneath your feet. And essentially, in so many words, as if to say, move on from those areas. Now, we still go out there periodically, but, it just gave me a spiritual reminder that the Lord is bringing judgment where we bring out this word, okay? Because Jake is being marked either for death or for salvation, okay? For damnation, okay, or salvation, all right? And there's a lot of, I know New Mexico is vastly populated, more so with indigenous individuals in the Northern Kingdom. You got a lot of Edomites down there, by way of the byproduct of the secular history of Esau's colonialism, of purchasing, the lands that once belonged to Mexico, as in New Mexico, Mexico itself, Texas, Arkansas, Nevada, Colorado, Texas, if I didn't already mention that. Those particular areas that were once a part of Mexico that, these Edomite colonizers, such as, Francis, Napoleon Bonaparte, and the British and the devils, within the 13 colonies in America and so forth, sold these particular areas I mentioned amongst themselves after conquering these areas. So that's why there's a lot of Edomites in these areas. And that's why the hatred of these devils, has resurfaced, but it really never went anywhere. Okay, this is why Jake is continuing to get lynched in any particular areas, including Texas. Including even other areas that were not a part of the Louisiana Purchase, such as North Carolina, including a Jake I just looked up about 11 years ago that got lynched. On a playground set, I believe. Being found with a shoe too small, and then Esau ruled that as a suicide. You see, the reason why they keep ruling these lynchings of our people as suicides is because they believe that Jake is stupid, and the majority of our people are stupid. It says in Jeremiah the 4th chapter, our people are sottish. Jeremiah 4:22, I believe it is. It says our people are sottish children, meaning stupid. Okay. Our people are deprived of wisdom because of the curses, going back to Deuteronomy 28 and 28. Okay, how the Lord would smite our minds with madness. So a lot of Jakes are not paying attention to what is, to this devil, our arch nemesis, an ancient enemy, Esau, Edom, a self-proclaimed white man. The biblical identity of this devil, the self-proclaimed white man being Esau, Edom, the man of sin, the son of perdition, hunting us because that old ancient spirit of the dragon, representing the pagan Roman Empire, okay, America being the splitting image of the empire, okay, has resurfaced and never really went anywhere, as I mentioned. This is why they continue to persecute us, man, because it's biblically prophesied to be that way. All right, and this is why these lynchings continue. Okay, going back to the Willie Lynch era. Okay, just to provide some brief history on that. But before I even get into that, you got this Jake. All right, Givan that was recently lynched in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Another lynching Okay, one of many within this year alone, within these past few weeks alone, that Esau has ruled as a suicide with no substantial proof of that, because once again, they know that Jake is not paying attention. For one, Jake is behind enemy lines, okay, and they don't know that. They don't know that they're behind enemy lines because they're distracted by Esau's satanic devices, including his rigged, sporting events of bread and circus that my man William Cooper brought out before Esau assassinated his ass for exposing the intricate wickedness of these devils that runs the world, okay, through these such devices that I'm referring to. But what I'm saying, Jake is mainly distracted, okay. That's why Esau has more liberty to hunt and persecute our people in broad daylight, and then hide it under these suicide reports and so forth. Okay. So this is one of many lynchings within the past few weeks, as I mentioned, including Jake that they mentioned, something Reed. I just looked him up recently, but one of the two Mississippi Jakes that got recently put to death a couple of weeks ago around the Delta. Okay, is one of the Jakes that he mentioned. Okay, let me go ahead and pull his name. Trey Reed. Okay, Trey Reed was one of the two, Jakes that they found lynched. Okay, over there in Mississippi a few weeks ago. Okay, then you had in those two so-called black men lynched in Mississippi a few weeks ago, including Trey Reed, happened just a few hours apart. Okay, so not only you have those situations, those lynchings take place recently, but there's another so-called black man lynched in North Carolina a year ago. This Jake here, I think he may be a Yah Israelite or something of that nature, but because he said all praise to the Most High without mentioning the Most High's name, so I don't know if he's a Yah Israelite or whatever the case, but he was the one that reported the lynchings in Mississippi when it happened a few weeks ago that I came across. But nonetheless, this Jake on the screen was pointing out something happened in Alabama. I believe it may have been another lynching in Alabama. He mentioned a couple of other lynchings in other areas that I haven't heard of before. So who knows? So having all this been said, that just indicates that our people are being hunted down and persecuted to death, including by way of the method of lynching, by the hour, man. Okay. To the point to where we don't even know how many Jakes are being put to death, especially by way of the method of lynching. Okay, so you have, so speaking of lynchings, you had that situation take place with the so-called black man that got lynched in North Carolina a year ago. There was a Jake in North Carolina that got lynched about 3 months ago, I believe, in North Carolina. Yeah, 3 months ago in North Carolina. Okay. There's another Jake, so-called black man of the Southern Kingdom, most likely, lynched in Albany 3 months ago. And then there was a so-called black utility worker, a so-called black man, that was threatened to be lynched by this Edomite couple in Florida. Okay, not too long ago, about a month or two ago. So having all this been said, once again, that old ancient hatred of the dragon, the serpent, Esau, Edom, the subclane white man, the man of sin and son of perdition that's in destruction, okay, is resurfacing more so than it ever has been. Okay, that much more intensified because he knows that he has but a short time, and he's being exposed, okay, as a devil, okay, by way of biblical prophecy of the prophets bringing this information out on the highways and hedges, okay, to the fact to where this devil is doing damage control tactics, man, such as Amalek, okay, looking to buy up, that has recently bought up TikTok, because they're trying to control the information war that they're losing drastically, man. Okay, now they're resorting to desperate measures because desperate times call for desperate measures, man. And that's eventually going to lead, those desperate measures going to eventually lead into this devil full-fledged relying on his blessing, which is the sword, which his military industrial complex represents. That's why Trump is issuing, declaring, or deploying the National Guard troops within these particular pro-black or pro-Jake neighborhoods, including so-called black people. Okay, with the exception of Portland for the most part, because this devil is gradually getting ready to turn this so-called God-fearing country into a prison planet, which it essentially already is, through Social Security, you know what I'm saying, and so forth. But you're going to turn this place into a prison planet, man, and a completely militarized zone. Okay? Which is a further replication of the Roman Empire, known for their formidable military, just like America, the splitting image of Rome, is known for. So Esau is utilizing his sword on our people, okay? Because of the ancient hatred he has always had for our people. So let's go ahead and get into the precepts. In Psalm chapter 106, start there. Psalm chapter 106 and verse 34. It reads, "They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah commanded them." It's talking about Jake's rebellion, okay, against righteous order. Okay, of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah commanding us to persecute the heathen to death and tear down their altars of idolatry, and our people refuse to do that. Okay, but rather conjoin themselves on to this devil. Okay, and Esau, Edom, and these other heathen nations, and yearn to be compatible with them and serve their gods, their pagan deities. Okay, of wood and stone and so forth. All right. So this is, it says in verse 35, "But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works, and they served their idols which were a snare to them." Here's a point. What the point is going to be in verse 41, but it goes on to say here, "Yea, they sacrificed their sons." They sacrificed their sons and their daughters into devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed into the idols of Canaan. And the land was polluted with blood. And you see, this is the origination of all these idols that are reverenced within these pagan holidays, such as Nimrod. Okay, the so-called Trinity doctrine through Nimrod, Semiramis, Tammuz. Okay, but then so-called Christmas, that was kept as a Saturnalia festival, or with these damn Roman devils, these Edomites. Okay, were indulging in all kinds of perverseness and including sexual deviancy, okay, through the whoredom, the faggotry, you know what I'm saying, the moism, the pedophilia situation, okay, and that's why that spirit is still prevalent and now within their current rulership, within the splitting image of the Roman Empire, America, because it's the same empire and the same individuals ruling the same empire all over again. They never went anywhere, okay, but you have these other heathen nations that are also idolaters. Okay, because they are not of the children of Israel that were given the law, statutes, commandments, okay, which includes abstaining from idolatry, okay, going to the first commandment. So these are the many nations, including the vilest and lowest of all the heathen nations, Esau, Edom, the subclient white man, who we conjoin ourselves to. Okay, so so it says, because including these pagan idols that originates back to blood ritualistic sacrifices, okay, of human sacrifices to these pagan gods, such as Molech and Baal of ancient Canaan, ancient Egypt, Samaria, so forth. So it says here, verse 39, "Thus were they defiled with their own works and went a-whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance." And here's the point here, verse 41, "And he gave them into the hand of the heathen, and they that hated them ruled over them." Okay, who's the lowest of all the heathen? Pursuing Obadiah. Okay, the Esau, Edom. All right, let's go ahead and further speak on that here. And this precept in Prayer of Azariah, or Songs of the Three Holy Children, verse 8, and it reads, "Wherefore all that thou hast brought upon us, and everything that thou hast done to us, thou hast done in true judgment." Salaki, here's the point of verse 9. "And thou didst deliver us," and it speaks about our forefather, the prophet Nehemiah, spoke about the same thing. I believe in the Nehemiah, the 9th chapter, how we deserve what we got. As it says, it also echoes in Micah 7 and 9. But it goes on to say here, Prayer of Azariah 1 and 9, "And thou didst deliver us into the hands of lawless enemies, most hateful forsakers of the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shem Yahshai, and to an unjust king, and a most wicked in all the world." And this is the same unjust king, okay, in a modern day sense, that refers to Esau, Edom. Okay, mainly that cruel Lord in Isaiah 19 and 4 that we believe to be DJT, okay? Nero, number 47. Nero Caesar reincarnated, DJT. the current commander-in-chief, okay? By way of his cruelty that he has publicized and declared on the descendants of Jacob, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indians, specifically under the guise of immigration politics, which is hypocritical for the fact that you devils are the true immigrants and migrants because you're vagabonds and you don't have a true home. That's why you're the biggest culture vultures, okay? And hence why you stole America from the true founding fathers, which are the indigenous people of the Northern Kingdom, colonized them, and had the audacity to set up borders, okay, to keep them out, blaming them for setting up the borders, when in actuality, the origin of the borders being set up around the 19th century was to keep these rival European invaders from coming into America and fighting you for the territory that you stole from the indigenous, man. Okay? Then after you got done butchering the Northern Kingdom, you brought the Southern Kingdom, okay, through the transatlantic slave trade from Northwest Africa, okay, all across, around that particular area in the Caribbean and so forth, and brought us all the way over here to North America, where the majority of us have been since then. So you've been oppressing and afflicting us in unjustifiable ways, man, because you are the epitome of the lawless enemy of the Lord. That's why he hates you, as it says in Romans 9:13. Okay, Jacob have I loved, and Esau have I hated. Esau's name was changed to Edom, as I often like to go into. When you Google Edom in the Wikipedia, jump down to the religion section, it reveals who the modern-day Edomites are, these modern-day Europeans, okay? Mainly within, modern-day Rome, Australia for the most part, Italy for the most part, Britain, especially Britain, France, and so forth. These self-proclaimed white people whose bloodline, derives back to Esau, Edom. And the only exception would be Israelites that look like you devils, look like Edomites, says bloodline derives back to Jacob. And we could tell by the spirit. But for the most part, you Edomites are you modern-day Europeans. All right? And you being exposed, okay, for your vile, profane, brutish nature. All right? As the most lawless enemy of the earth. So lawless that you are using your lawlessness against your own comrades, man. Such as, waging geoeconomical war on your comrades, such as Germany, for purchasing cheap Russian gas from Russia. But it says in Sirach 14:5, roughly paraphrasing, if he's evil to himself, what good could he do to anybody else? So this is what Jake don't understand. While they're continuing to seek the validation from their common oppressor, he dishonors that desire much more. Just like the spiritual demon Satan doesn't respect those who worships him, because he's completely on the left-hand side, and he was created to be the adversary to righteousness in totality. And Esau, Edom, a subsequent white man, the devil the Bible speaks of, the Lord's weapon stick on the left-hand side is the harbingers of death. They are the bidders of the spiritual demon Shaitan on the left-hand side. That's why they possess his spirit. When they were butchering the Taino Indians, the so-called modern-day Puerto Ricans of the tribe of Ephraim, for example, they did so much heinous, sadistic butchering of our people that the Tainos looked at these devils like they were cyborgs or something, man, as if to say or think, there's no way that these people could be humans because they're vile, demonic, seditious acts that they're inflicting on our people. But see, Jake has been so far removed from reality, especially Gen Z, that this information is far-fetched, and this is why the significance of this information war being controlled on behalf of these devils, these Zionist bankers representing Amalek of the nation of Edom, is so vital for them, because they'll just be completely exposed, man. So anyway, this is I'm gonna land back on this precept in Prayer of Rosario 1-9 and Hebrews 12-16. I'm gonna bring out some brief history, with the whole lynching information and how that ties, how that ties with, the law enforcement and the KKK, by way of a comment somebody made on our video that I just showed in the beginning of the lesson. Before I get to that, I bring out this quick precept in Hebrews 12-16, which reads, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Okay? So fornicator, someone who indulges in sexual illicit acts. Is that not prevalent in America through the whoredom they promote, through the rap industry and so forth, the pornography industry ran by Amalek, including OnlyFans, okay? You see all over social media and so forth, okay? Especially the Moism, going back 10 years ago when the Hamite Obama legalized sodomite marriages all throughout the 50 states in America, Babylon the Great. So this further identifies who the devil is, man. Esau Edom, the epitome of a fornicator, in a little sense, indulging in sexual illicit activities such as the ones I mentioned, including spiritual fornication, as in idolatry, which is what these pagan holidays further represents, because they all originate back to pagan idolatry. Okay? So this is why, evil has entered into the earth. Okay, out of envies, it says the Wisdom of Solomon, 2nd chapter, because envy, envy leading into that evil entering, being further developed in the earth, came by way of this devil, Esau Edom. As it's prophesied here in Hebrews 12 and 16, there's not one more profane person than Esau Edom, man. I mean, it's being that much more made apparent through his vile, profane nature, as it's prophesied here, that we have further brought out. That's being further brought out here in this lesson, man. So this is now let's get some information here. With the lynchings. This is on iHeart.com. It says the history of the KKK and law enforcement behind the police. Now, before I get to this information, what influenced the research on that information was a comment somebody had made here where they said police have to be involved in this. These events seem to be very well coordinated. You see that? So people start to become more privy to the satanic devices of you devils, including your satanic Western media, which the term media itself originates back to a witchcraft term, medium. And how you are looking to control the information and further masquerade or hide your hatred towards a targeted demographic of people, being Jake, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indians, Israelite foreigners. Okay? All right, because to substantiate this comment to be true, let's go ahead and revisit the information of secular history on the ties of Esau's law enforcement, the police, with the KKK. How the KKK has always been known to infiltrate these particular organizations, such as law enforcement, the court systems, on behalf of these damn Freemason devils for the most part. Firefighters. Okay, court systems, including the Freemasonic judges, and the attorneys, and so forth. It says, on this episode of Behind the Police, Robert Evans and Jason Propaganda Petty tell us about the historically close relationship between the police and the KKK. The period after slavery was abolished between 1865 to 1877 was called Reconstruction. More than 700 black men, quote unquote, were elected to public office, including 14 representatives and 2 senators. 1,400 black men, quote unquote, and women were appointed to government jobs, and they fought for things like back wages for former slaves. This was a pickle for, quote unquote, white supremacists. Robert says, in response, the KKK was formed because Esau feared an uprising. Okay, all right. Around shortly after the Emancipation Proclamation, where that devil Abraham Lincoln removed the chattel slavery of physical slavery and transitioned us to systematic slavery. Creating that diversion, that illusion that we were supposedly free, just because the physical slavery had ended. On behalf of the chains around our bodies and the yokes of iron around our necks and so forth. Our people fell for the okie doke and believed that they can coexist with their oppressor, despite all the heinous, sadistic crimes the devil has committed against our people. Jake has developed Stockholm syndrome, man. It's a psychological conditioning of love for the slave master. Case in point. And that's why they go out there to this day and protest and, you know what I'm saying, march on behalf of BLM, orchestrated or not, whether they're patsies or agent provocateurs for hire by Esau or not, on behalf of George Soros or not. You know, they still go out there and they protest and they you know what I'm saying, essentially begging the devil to stop being the devil, which is counterproductive. Why? Because they don't know the enemy. They trust their enemy because they don't know the enemy. Sirach 12:10 says, never trust our enemy, for as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. He's never going to stop being the devil, man. That's what he's created to do. That's why he is a perfect devil. Cold, ruthless, calculated, merciless. That's who he is. This is why death is entered to the world. As it says in Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter. This is why this devil has to be destroyed. For the earth to have rest. This is prophesied at the end of Ezekiel 35th chapter, which I'm going to get to at the end of the lesson. But it goes on to say, at first, this was basically a loosely formed gang of drunk so-called white men who would dress up as ghosts or aliens and terrify so-called black people with beatings, hangings, dismemberment, like cutting off our phalluses, literally, okay, and other violence. The costumes were intended to make the victims appear ridiculous, afraid of something silly that they didn't get the joke. President Ulysses S. Grant and his attorney, General Amos Ackerman, clamped down hard on the KKK, passing enforcement acts, and by 1872, the KKK was no more. But it says, in 1915, the KKK started back up again under the aegis of a minister named William Joseph Simmons, who rebranded it as a fun family club that helped police with law and order. Now, speaking of that, and in my day sense, what happened to that executive order legislation that Biden has signed a few years ago to combat lynchings? You see that? It just further confirms that these decrees and policies they enact to supposedly protect our people, the descendants of Jacob, have no weight behind them, because they were never intended to have any weight behind them. It was just to help. It was to further contribute to giving our people the illusion that we can coexist within this beast system, so they can remain vulnerable mentally and spiritually and even physically. You know, at the point of Esau's pursuit of death against our people, man. And that's why people are like sitting ducks now, because they lack the wisdom. It says in Isaiah 33:6, wisdom and knowledge should be stability of these times, of that times. And our people are collectively not spiritually and mentally stable because they don't have the breath, the Holy Spirit of the Lord, okay, to understand these prophecies, including as to why we were prophesied to be brought here in America collectively and persecuted by he who the eagle represents, the vile, the profane, Esau, Edom. So it says, but then in 1877, Jim Crow laws were passed. These mandated different public spaces for so-called white and black people, requiring separate bathrooms, schools, restaurants, beaches, and everything else, especially in the South. To this day, that's why it's not a coincidence. A lot of these lynchings are taking place in the South, including in Mississippi, okay? Including Trey Reed, of those two so-called black men that got lynched in Mississippi a couple of weeks ago. The Jake in North Carolina lynched a few months ago, and so forth. It says, and police could arrest a black person, quote unquote, simply for entering a white-only space. Now, let's get straight to the point. Give me 1 second. Take a sip of water. All right. Slovakia. So it says here, it says, I'm gonna go ahead and end it off with this last paragraph. Remember, Robert says that the first police department started in 1838 and Jim Crow laws in 1877. Law enforcement was founded in large part to keep black people separate from whites, and the Klan didn't limit themselves to black people. They also terrorized Catholics, JWs, and Asian immigrants. Robert tells many stories to illustrate the violence of the KKK in several parts of the country, then gives an overview of the Red Summer of 1919, when white people, quote unquote, went to so-called black communities, instigating violence and destroying their homes and businesses. And law enforcement, here's a point here, okay? And law enforcement either stood by and watched or actively assisted the white mobs. Now, what does this individual say here in this video? of this Jake in Albuquerque recently put to death. They said police have to be involved in this. These events seems to be very well coordinated, and it is. It very much is, man. By way of the description of this devil I mentioned: cold, calculated, ruthless, merciless, godless. That's hence why one of his aliases is the most lawless enemy, Prayer Rosario 1 and 9. Okay, and a vile and profane in Hebrews 12 and 16. So this is goes on to say here. Then he draws a direct line from that day to this, telling us about FBI reports showing that members of law enforcement all over the country have ties to extremist groups or had to be reprimanded for making racist comments. That's why it's not a coincidence that damn Sheetamite devil, Amber Heard, I believe her name is. Not Amber Heard, that's Johnny Depp's broad. Amber Geiger or something like that, man. That Sheetamite cop that slew that so-called Haitian, the tribe of Levi, back around 2019, 2020. And essentially got off of it. They gave her some jail time, but that's manslaughter. She had no justifiable reason to put that man to death because she entered his premises while he was sitting on his couch eating some goddamn ice cream and put his ass to death and got a life sentence, as expected. Because the world is a stage. Why? Pursuant to Job 9:24, the earth was given to the hands of the wicked, Esau, Edom. Because of our constant transgression against the Lord, Yahweh by Shemeshai, as further mentioned in Psalm 106th chapter, that was brought out in the beginning of the lesson. That's why the Lord gave us over to within the hands of the most lawless of enemies, the most violent, profane, specifically being Esau, Edom. So there's more than enough clarity to confirm why we are being persecuted in the manner in which we are. But Jake don't want to listen for the most part. That's why they're gonna be destroyed by the same enemy. It says, when it comes to the police upholding so-called white supremacy, not much has changed. Listen to the episode for all this history and more on Behind the Police. Now, this came out 5 years ago, so you can, you can listen to it. The Spirit leads you to it. That's pretty much just a brief synopsis on the history of segregation laws within the Jim Crow era during the 19th century. You know what I'm saying? The 18th to the 19th century up into this day. So this is back in Songs of the Three Holy Children, where Prayer Rosaria 1 and 9. Actually, I'm going to continue. And thou didst deliver us into the hands of lawless enemies, most hateful forsakers of the Most High God Yahweh, by Shem Yashai, and to an unjust king and the most wicked in all the world. Okay. So jump over to Jeremiah 50 and 6. The point is verse 7. It says, my people had been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. He's really referring to wicked leadership of Israel, including false prophets. All right. And wicked chief priests and so forth. Wicked lawgivers of the Sadducees and the various sects of the Israelites of the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. Okay. Regarding the Sadducees and the Pharisees and, and so forth. It says, my people have been lost sheep. The shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place, which is really Jerusalem. Ultimately, it's Yahweh by Shemeshai as our strong tower, in pursuit of Proverbs 18 and 10. Okay, the source of our first love in Revelation, Revelation 2, verses 4 to 5, is a wisdom, knowledge, understanding of this holy gospel, which was intended for Israel to be holy, to be made separate from the rest of the world. And we didn't hold up the end of the bargain, okay? By looking to be compatible with the heathen of the world and their idols. That's why the Lord gave us over to their hands, okay? Here, now here's the point of verse 7. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai, the habitation of justice, even the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai, the hope of their fathers. Okay, so these devils have the sentiment of, well, we offend not because they sin against you, God. In so many words, right? Meaning that's Esau's facetious mind frame or sentiment of justifying slaying our people, because the upper echelons of these devils know who we are. So they give the little orders, and you know what I'm saying, such as training these modern day slave catchers or slave patrol individuals, modelly known as cops, with the same exact slave patrol badge on the uniforms as they had back during the times of slave patrol era. Okay, have been given their orders, for example, to treat our people a certain way. And Jake, wonders why that is, because they're out of touch with reality, mainly because they're not in tune with prophecy. So, it says in verse 7 again, all that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against the Lord, the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. So this is Esau's mindset. How they can just justify themselves within their hearts, their minds, to continue to persecute our people in the manner in which they are. With little to any consequences, repercussions. Okay? So this is I'm going to jump straight to the next precept as soon as I can get there. Yeah, this is let me see, I'm going to go with Revelation 12 and start from the top. The point is in verse 4. It says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. And that woman is Israel. Okay, represents Israel, which is referred to the Heavenly Father's wife, in a proverbial sense. Meaning the nation of Israel was the only nation that was married or joined to the Lord through the Holy Covenant. Okay, through a blood oath in Exodus, the 24th chapter. It says here in verse 2, and she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, okay, representing the pagan Roman Empire, okay, the Edomites of the pagan Greco-Roman Empire, specifically the fourth beast empire being the Western Roman Empire. It says, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. All right, the 7 heads representing the 7 top conglomerate powers of the Edomite hegemony, and the 10 horns representing the modern day EU, formerly the former EEC in 1958, representing the Edomite power structure. And here's the point in verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. All right, and the third part of the stars of heaven, representing the 12 stars, as in the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, the third part of those 12 stars represents the southern kingdom, as in the 3 tribes of Israel, the 3 tribes of the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay, the respective tribes of the so-called Negroes of the tribe of Judah, okay, the so-called West Indians, all right, including the Jamaicans, Trinidadians, and so forth, the tribe of Benjamin, and the so-called Haitians, the tribe of Levi, okay, whom the third part of the 12 stars in this precept represents, that was cast down to the earth, persecuted greatly by this dragon. And secular history further confirms that. Okay, throughout these various times of slavery, including the Haitian Revolution against the French Edomites in the 18th century, including Toussaint, okay, was one of I believe, the first successful slave revolt against these devils. Then he had another partially successful slave revolt, okay, against Esau. On behalf of Nat Turner, okay, during the around the same time, around the 18th to the 19th century, okay, who Esau caught, flagged, and reportedly cut off his rod, man. So we have a lot of history of being persecuted by the dragon, especially throughout the secular historical events of slavery and persecution from this devil. So it says, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, Salakia, and in verse 4, and it tells you the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth, referring to the southern kingdom once again, the three southern kingdom tribes. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Okay, so it was going into the time where, King Herod in St. Matthew, the 2nd chapter, attempted to assassinate or eliminate Yahushua before he was born. Okay, or around the time he was born, by seeking the lives of all the Israelite male infants 2 years and younger, to try to offset that prophecy of Yahushua being born, because he knew that there's a prophecy of a king of Israel coming to overthrow the Edomite rulership, mainly within the Roman Empire. Now King Herod thought that was going to happen back then, but he didn't understand prophecy. Okay, completely. Being that the splitting image of the Roman Empire is one that's going to be taken down by Yahushua in these last days. Okay, so this is verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child, she being Israel, that man-child is Yahushua, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up into the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shemeshai into his throne. Verse 6 says, and a woman fled into the wilderness, which is Africa, okay, pursuing to the prophecy in St. Luke, the 21st chapter, where Yahushua told us to flee to the mountains, which is the Atlas Mountains, okay, within Northwest Africa, which is the same area where the trans-Saharan slave trade took place. I'm about to briefly bring out some history on that real quick, because we have a lot of history within Africa. That doesn't mean that we're Africans, as in biblical Hamites. Okay. So our ties, our historical ties with as Israelites to Africa, just simply entails where we were to flee, mainly to flee Roman persecution. Okay, which also identifies who we are by way of the trans-Saharan slave trade, as in the area where that took place, around the same area within this wilderness spoken about, prophesied here, which is Africa, mainly Northwest Africa, around the Saharan desert, Morocco, Algeria, so forth. So it says, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shemeshai, that they should feed her there 1,203 days, which is 350 years. Okay, from around that time frame up until now, where we continue to be persecuted by this goddamn devil. So just to bring out some brief history on that, on our ties with Africa, it says, let me bring this out here. It says the provided statement is largely accurate in terms of Muslims occupying and conquering Northwest Africa around the Holy Wars, because the Muslims representing Ishmael, the modern-day Arab, had conquered Jake during the Holy Wars around the 7th to the 8th centuries, and that's how they ended up mainly occupying Northwest Africa. That's why a lot of them Egyptians that claim Egyptians are Ishmaelites. Okay, there's a lot of Ishmaelites over there in Africa, especially Northwest Africa, because they participated in the trans-Saharan slave trade with Ham, the modern-day African, and Esau, Edom, the subclan white man. So that further confirms you Ishmaelites going to slavery too. That's why you're getting jacked up right now by Amalek. But anyway, it says, the provided statement is largely accurate, reflecting the historical reality of the Muslim conquest in Northwest Africa, also known as the Maghreb, during the 7th and 8th centuries. This historical event involved military expansion, conflict with the local Berber population, and the spread of Islam throughout the region. You see, so this is why people, mainly like to follow Islam as well. One of the top two so-called man-made religions that our people like to follow, besides plantation Christianity, under the umbrella of Roman Catholicism, which all originates back to, all these religions, including the ones I mentioned, originates back to pagan idolatry, including Islam. The whole symbol of Islam represents the worship of the constellation of the stars, mentioned in Jeremiah the 10th chapter. Specifically, the Queen of Heaven, Semiramis worship. Okay, so there's some brief history on our ties with Africa, why we ended up there, okay, what was to take place there in terms of the trans-Saharan slave trade, in terms of following the cookie crumb, so to say. Because prophecy is like a big puzzle. You just follow the puzzle pieces, so to say, proverbially speaking. Our people don't collectively have the capacity to do that, nor do they care to have the capacity to do that, but ultimately, the elect of our people, the Israelites, were preordained with the gift of prophecy, mainly by way of our measure of faith, including myself, Adam Ratazah, of the hopeful elect, to bring out this information, you know what I'm saying, and I'll just do this secular history filled to the biblical prophecy to further identify why we go through what we go through. Having all this been said, what our people hear, they forbear. That's why we have many enemies. That's why these particular enemies, including the ones I've been emphasizing on, mainly Esau, Edom, persecutes us to this day. All right, but there's going to be recompense for that. This is Ezekiel 35. Ezekiel 35 and 1. I'm gonna get this in NLT. Ezekiel 35 and 1 to verse 7 NLT. And I'm gonna jump down to verse 10 and 15 and close the lesson out towards the end of the chapter. But this is Ezekiel 35 and 1 NLT. Again, a message came to me from the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai. Son of man, turn again, so like you turn and face Mount Seir and prophesy against its people. Mount Seir represents Esau, Edom. That's why they're a mountainous people, hence the term Caucasian, being pushed into the Caucasus Mountains between the Black and the Black and the Caspian Sea during the Byzantine Empire, shortly after our Moorish rule. Okay, within the eastern side of the world, from the 7th century up into the around the 15th century, you had so-called black men ruling, black royalty, black men, so-called black men ruling Europe. Okay, Ezekiel 35 and 3, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord God, Yahweh by Shem Shai, behold, on Mount Seir I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. Verse 4, NLT. I will demolish your cities and make you desolate, then you will know that I am the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai. Here's the point in verse 5, NLT. It says, your eternal hatred, okay, your eternal hatred for the people of Israel led you to butcher them when they were helpless, when I had already punished them for all their sins, including casting us out of our land. Hence why the so-called indigenous of the northern kingdom sailed over here to try to keep the law, statutes, commandments better and more in order, after the Assyrian captivity. Okay, during Shalmaneser V and so forth. Okay, Sargon and all them Assyrian demons, they fled over here. And when you watch the movie 1492 of Christopher Columbus' life, Cristobal Colon, which is his real name, he quoted a passage from Ezra. It's mainly 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, and how he knew where to find the people that are dwelling over here by referring to the prophecies, which further confirms that he knew that the so-called indigenous, okay, were Israelites, are Israelites. And then who was a better example of them being butchered by this same dragon, this devil, than them? When you read that book, The American H to the LO Cost, man, it's gonna make your fucking blood boil, man. What this fucking devil is doing to our people, man. Okay, it's pissing me off right now. He was man, I can't even go into the stuff that he was doing. It's so graphic that this devil would probably take the video down. But I say it like this: it involved private parts. I'll leave it at that. Men and women. This shit he was doing, man. Feeding our pregnant women to canine dogs. Getting his canine dogs used to eating indigenous flesh, so that they would crave it. Okay? Raping the men, women, and children. Selling our people off as sexually exploiting our people and selling us in that manner, not just for slave labor, but for that manner as well, for perverse pleasure. That's why they say Christopher Columbus in that book, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. There's a passage in there where it says Christopher Columbus, didn't like putting his sword down. Because you devils butchered our people, especially the indigenous. That's why speaking of lynchings, the largest lynching in American history, Babylon the Great, is of Gad, the tribe of Gad, the so-called Native American Indians, consisting of 303 Gadites lynched at one time. Okay? During the time of Abraham Lincoln. But yeah, this is the devil that our people like to praise as if he freed us. And I was one of those lost souls that thought that he freed us, man. Until I got cut by the man that the Lord used to teach me the truth. And I told him, hey man, Abraham Lincoln saved us. I said some simple ass shit. And I got cut right away, just by facts of secular history. Now we can filter the biblical prophecy, and this is why you devils really want to shut the internet down. But before you do that, you want to censor it and control it, control the information that's circulating. And you like to do that by shadow banning our lessons. Okay? Giving us strikes, taking our channels down with no warnings, because you devils are through. But anyway, Ezekiel 35:5 in NLT. Your eternal hatred for the people of Israel led you to butcher them when they were helpless, when I had already punished them for all their sins. Verse 6, NLT. Give me 1 second. Plug up my give my device some juice. Ezekiel 35:6 NLT. As surely as I live, said the sovereign Lord, Yahweh by Shemeshai, since you show no since you show no distaste for blood, I will give you a bloodbath of your own. Your turn has come. And it's going to come at the hands of the worst of the heathen, mentioned in what's that, Ezekiel 28 chapter. Okay, around the 10th verse on down, really around the 9th verse on down. At the hands of Iran, Russia, North Korea, they want the blood of you devils. So you ain't got to worry about Jake. You're spinning this false narrative in the media that we are the worst thing going, so you can try to bring the insurrection that you're prophesied to bring in the second Ezra 16th chapter, around the 70th verse on down. Salakia. Okay, but you got bigger fish to fry, man. That's why you're gonna be hiding under your underground bunkers, because it's prophesied that the BRICS nations and their allies are gonna shoot nukes on your ass, and the Muslim nations. This is Ezekiel 35:7 in the NLT. I will make Mount Seir utterly desolate, killing off all who try to escape and any who return. So none of you Edomites getting away, man. Like you devils like to say, oh, can we all get along? No. Because pursuing Ecclesiastes 3:15, the Lord requires which is past. Because he's the ancient of all days, man. You devils not getting away with all the wickedness that you have done to our people, past, present, and future. Jump down to verse 10. NLT. For you said, the lands of Israel and Judah will be ours. We will take possession of them. What do we care that the Lord is there? You see? Like it says in Jeremiah 15:7. We offend not because they trespass against you. So many words. I read it earlier, but for sake of time, I'm just going to continue with the lesson. I'm a little short on time right now, but the Spirit had to bring out, man. All right. Because these lynchings are going to continue. It's going to happen more and more, more ruthless. Case in point, these devils will lynch our people. Hence the term, the origin of the term picnic, as in pick a nigga. But they would lynch our men. They would lynch our people, men, women, and children. Because just like they did in the time of the Greeks. When you read the book of Maccabees, there's an account where they were lynching our people, man. That's what Fred identifies, that these Edomites, these so-called Caucasians, these so-called white people who self-proclaim white people, because the main ones that selfly proclaim to be white are these devils, these Edomites. And these are the same, the spirits of the same devils that were lynching our people during the times of the Hellenist period, man. During the Greeks, the beginning of so-called white supremacy, and they're still doing it because there's nothing new in the sun. As it says in Jeremiah 13 and 23, can a leopard change his spots? No. Let me get that real quick. Jeremiah 13. Jeremiah 13 and 23 reads, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. You can't change what is, man. This devil was created to be the devil, point blank, period. So this is Ezekiel 35 and 10. For you said the lands of Israel and Judah will be ours. We would take possession of them. What do we care that the Lord is there? See, that lines with Jeremiah 15:33. Had they refused to let Judah and Israel go. Judah represents the southern kingdom of Israel, so-called Negro tribes of the southern kingdom of Israel. In the context of prophecy of the mentioning of Israel in Jeremiah 15:33 refers to these so-called indigenous. That's how we're able to identify who the lost 12 tribes of Israel are, by way of what was to be biblically prophesied to happen to them in terms of the great persecution and affliction that the Israelites were to endure by way of the curses in Deuteronomy 28 verses 15 and 68. There's that only one demographic of people fulfills, and that's the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indians, point blank, period. As it says in Daniel 9 and verse 11 to 12 as well. Ezekiel 35 and 11, NLT, says, therefore, as surely as I live, said the sovereign Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, I will pay back your angry deeds with my own. I will punish you for all your acts of anger, envy, and hatred. And I will make myself known to Israel by what I do to you. See that? I mean, that's making you a public example on how not to live, and that's being a full-fledged, brutish beast and demon. That's the legacy of the self-proclaimed white man. Okay, the man of sin, the son of perdition, the devil the Bible speaks of. That's death, which is death for looking to normalize death. All right. With the water to all you Akim tuning in, Salakia. I get to the precepts, but I'm going to get some precepts off the board. All right. From the brother, edification for the hopeful elect of Israel. Brother Malak. Brother put Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them, Salakia. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Okay, and that lines up with Psalm 58 and 2. How he weighs the violence of the earth in his hands by way of his blessing, that is, and that's his sword. All right, verse 2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, like America, for an indigenous, because all the precious resources over here of abundance, through the oil, the silver, the gold, the cattle, okay, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Therefore, thus said the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. So evil is going to be recompense on you devils. Okay? Same brother put up Zechariah 1 and 15. And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, and they helped for the affliction. You know, that's why, another reason why in Isaiah 26, it speaks about how favor was to be given to the heathen, mainly you Edomites, for a short season, because he's been using you as our weapon stick when we go off. That's why, Esau's modern day Roman centurions, the modern day slave patrols, the cops have a saying, law and order. Jay get out of line, they can persecute Jay even to death. So that's why the scripture says, Yahushua said, agree with thine adversary quickly. And when they pull Jake over, all right, man, I already have your license and registration prepared. All right, here you go. Especially, for the brothers and sisters who don't really have they don't have no warrants, no outstanding warrants. Hey, yeah, go ahead. When you sense that Esau is just purposely harassing you, you just tell him to go and run your name already, man. You're not gonna find shit. Now give me back my ID, give me back my license, my registration. Get the fuck out of my face, man. Okay, that's how it's supposed to move out here. You act like a Jake that is entitled, like you supposed to coexist with this damn devil, this goddamn devil, this godforsaken devil that is. As if you're supposed to be compatible with him and coexist within his beast system. You're out of your mind. You're out of touch with reality and really out of touch with prophecy. He didn't construct this system, this beast system, for Esau and Jake to be compatible. But Salaki, I digress. This is go and jump down. That's it. The same brother put up Zephaniah 2:1. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass of the shaft, before the fierce anger of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai come upon you, before the day of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai's anger. I hate when it does that, man. Salaki Akim. Before the decree bring forth, before the day passes the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai come upon you, before the day of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai's anger come upon you. Verse 3, seek ye the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness, it may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai's anger. Seek the Lord, man. Seek our power. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in want of all things, says damn devil, and he will protect us. He give you a roof over your head. He give you a job. Give you some wheels. Give you the means of keeping food on the table, just to keep us sustained enough to be active in his ministry of reconciliation of the Israelites back to him. Same brother put up Jeremiah 49:10. But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. It's a perfect precept to end this lesson off of, man. Okay? How this damn devil Esau Edom is being made bare, being exposed. As it says in Isaiah 47 chapter, how the skirt was to be lifted up off of the whore. All right? So shalom to all you Akim tuning in. This says the device is getting hot, so I'm gonna end it off on that note. The water to Akim tuning in, brother Malak, all right, brother GMS and his likeness, brother Damawati out there in Orlando, and all you other brothers and sisters may come across this lesson, which I pray is for the edifying and exhorting. All right. So with that, Shabbat Shalom, Labachayim. All right. Mawas Lababal, soon and very soon. All right. Once again, call Halam La Yahweh by Hashem, Hamashiach Habashai Barach Badash. All right. And once again, double honor to the apostles and elder bishops, great millstone for teaching, ruling well, and being a great example towards younger Akim and Akwath. All right. And Shabbat Shalom. All right. Labachayim once again. And on to the next one.